All right. So thank you so much. So what we will do now is we also have Shantanu here. As I mentioned before, Shantanu will bring a very important perspective on what, how school system, for example, will help us usher in the digital economy. And one of the questions which we were trying to understand was, in these times of change, more for your benefit, Shantanu, in these times of change, we not only, the small and medium enterprises are affected by this change in many ways, and talent development doesn't come naturally to them. So first, why talent development? And then now the question is how talent development, and how do we make sure that the supply sources also gear up, and to handle that we have preschool, college, and this is doctorate. All right. So we will now open it up for questions, and let's focus this discussion, because I don't think you need any further evidence on why should you invest in talent. There could not have been a more compelling argument than the one which Pramod gave. So if we just focus our discussion on how do we prepare ourselves for the changes ahead and the changes which are happening right now, which is the digital economy, which is threatening the conventional model of the organization, and which is threatening essentially the existence of your company, because your competitor may not come from the next door similar sounding guy, but may come from somewhere else, correct? And enough examples of that floating around. And what can the system do to counter ourselves, and how do we prepare ourselves for that, right? So I will request each one of the panelists, we'll do first come, first served. So Kumar came first. I'm talking about who landed up first for the session. And we will start with that, and I'll request each one of you to make brief remarks. Sure. And maybe 3-4 minutes each, and then we still have time. We will open it for questions and discussion amongst.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Tadani, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here this afternoon. Also, thank you for those kind words about the school. But ISB is what it is today because it's companies and visionaries like NIIT, Mr. Pawar, Mr. Tadani, and others who helped create the Indian School of Business. So I do want to recognize that. We're talking about talent management, and we're also talking it in the context of competitiveness. And I think that's what this session is. That's what we are here today as well. I'm just going to try and state what I want to state in 3 points, and let's leave it at that. First point is, whatever be your line of business, whatever be your product, whatever be the service that you're offering in your business, I think it's very important for us to recognize that sooner than later, competitors will come and replicate the same thing. I mean, they will not only replicate, in some cases, they will actually outsmart us, and they'll do things better. We may have sort of, rights over what we do, but we will find out that people are there to outsmart us. That's the reality of life. But at the core of all these things, that one thing that can't be replicated by any competitor is the one asset that each one of us have in our organization, and that's our human capital or talent. You can take away and replicate a process, and we have just heard from Mr. Bhasin what Genpact did. Many others came up. They did similar job. Maybe in some processes they were better than Genpact. I don't know. I'm just sort of making just a statement. But I think what you heard from Mr. Bhasin, and what I think is a fact for all of us to recognize, and the sooner we do, it's better for us, is that the people part of your organization can never be replicated. Yes, I'm also not trying to sound irrational here. You may lose people, but your culture, the people process that you want to adopt in the organization cannot be taken away from you. And in the long term, as businesses want to sustain themselves, as they want to grow, it's that people strategy of yours, it's that talent strategy of yours that's going to distinguish yourselves and help you succeed and make a mark. So that's one thing that I want us to recognize, especially from a point of view of competitiveness. Now, if this was not a reason sufficient enough for us to think of why we need to invest in talent strategy for our our own organizations. Let me give you one more example, or one more lens through which you can look at it. We are all leaders here. We lead different functions. We lead different organizations. We lead different things in our own organizations. We try to manage our organizations, right? And I'm using the word manage and not control, right? Because that's what we should be doing. We cannot be control-oriented, but you can manage things. But one thing that we can't do, and both Mr. Tadani and Mr. Bhasin will agree, is that while we cannot control external factors, right? What happens outside, markets change, economy crashes. This morning, there was an announcement by the government of India that there was a surgical strike across the border. The markets sort of dropped. You can't control those things, right? You were probably planning a big bash announcement and something else. Tomorrow, I guarantee you, none of you will get 1 inch of space in the front page. But you were planning this for 3 months, that today evening you're going to do this really big announcement. You cannot. You cannot control your external environment. You also cannot control economy that's outside. Right? I mean, economy has its own cycles, you cannot control. But what's the one thing that you can do, and one thing that you can do better, and is to help train your people, prepare your people to be able to face the challenges and, in fact, overcome the challenges that these external factors throw at you, right? Because what happens today, I can't control. But if you have a very good, and just taking that example, if you have a really smart communications person, that person, by virtue of having trained that person, he or she can actually make sure that whatever announcement you wanted to do this evening still finds its sort of way in the media, but in a different way. I mean, that's simply a very simplified example, but all that I'm trying to say is you can't control external environment, but you can prepare people to be able to respond to external things, external induced things. So it's sort of an inside-out way of managing managing situations, and the only inside out approach is better talent strategy, right? That's the second thing. So one is to say, your businesses could be replicated, but people strategy is important. Second is prepare your people better to face external challenges. The third thing is, again, sort of more contextual, which is what the report that came out yesterday, right? The World Economic Forum released the Global Competitiveness Index, and I'm again trying to think of the competitiveness angle to what we are discussing today, right? India's position has improved by 16 spots. We are at number 39, whole bunch of things that will be spoken about. But if you just look at what constitutes the competitiveness index, I mean, what factors contribute to it, there are about 12 pillars that sort of make up the competitiveness index. And you look at it, it's again, sort of bifurcated into 3 buckets. But one in the first bucket is about institutions, and that is institutions, both public and private sector. There's other things like infrastructure, but I'm not talking about it right now. Another important pillar that constitutes competitiveness or adds to competitiveness is higher education and training. And the third is labor market efficiency. I mean, I'm just using these 3 for the purpose of our thing. Just goes to prove that to be able to be competitive and to be able to be, because one of the things that Mr. Tadani spoke with us at lunch was it's not just about investing in our people in training, but also talk about how are they being productive. But if I can tell you that my business school is a very productive business school, there has to be some way of measuring it, right? I mean, how am I going to say that I'm a good school? When we started off in 97, or when the idea of ISB came up in 97, and we started our programs in 2001, from the day zero, we've been on stages like this, on platforms like this, and we said we'll do 2 things. One, we created a new market in India, which never existed, which is a 1-year MBA. You always had a 2-year MBA for the longest time. It continues to flourish. There is a huge market there. We created the 1-year market in India. We pioneered it, and as they say, imitation is the best form of flattery. Today, the top B schools in India also have a 1-year program. The second thing that we did, which we are even more proud of the first one, because the first one is just a business model. The second thing we did was we stood on stage every possible platform and we said, ISB will be a research-driven school. If you look at global rankings, Indian B schools were not ranked globally. And we are the best business schools in the world are in this country. That's because research carries about 30 to 40% weightage. We were not producing research. Knowledge creation was a casualty. Knowledge dissemination we are very good at. So we said we'll create research. We'll produce top quality faculty publications, faculty-driven publications. And the one thing that has really helped us in all of this is sort of staying true to our course, and which is about saying that you need to measure ourselves, and it's not sufficient if we as ISB say we are really top quality. We want somebody else to say that. And that's why I'm using this in the GCI index ranking as an example, because you will have your own, in your own sectors, in your own companies, in your organizations, you will have various parameters against which you measure yourself. So when you think of competitiveness, do follow some methodology that's out there, so long as it's neutral enough, that you think is neutral enough, that you think is aligned to your source of business, and try and see what contributes to it. You will for sure find that investing in people is the most important element to it. And I'm not saying that others are not. And I do want to ensure that our flight lands on time, so I'm going to stop at this point of time and participate in discussions later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, Kumar. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Rajiv Gupta.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all of you. I share a commonality with all the panelists available on the dais. First, Mr. Thadani. I have done ANIT from NIT.
I was wondering why there is a twinkle in your eyes.
I left GE in 2000, Jacques. My daughter has just got admission into deferred program for ISB. And my school is an Educom school. So, good evening, sir. Honored to speak in front of Mr. Bhasin and Mr. Thadani.
So we can all say we have something in common with Golden Bells.
Yes.
Good.
Golden Bells is the first school in India to start the concept of multiple intelligences. I pioneered this program 4 years ago. I did a doctorate in child psychology. Everyone talks about Dr. Howard Gardner when we go to schools. IQ, EQ, that's it. They talk about marks. My father retired as secretary CBSE, so education is in blood. I'm the governing body member of Delhi University and advisory for Delhi government for early childhood care education. Everyone talks about marks. Why? Why don't we talk about knowledge? When I was in Jacques, that's the last job I did, I had the best salaries, I had the best technology available, the best training, and I am proud to say when I go down the line, my school St. Xavier's, my college Hansraj, and my last job GE, Jacques. All courtesy Mr. Bhasin. So these are institutions which are in blood. But what it makes you to go into GE? That itself is a tremendous task, a huge task. And as a preschool, what are we doing? Are we just pampering 2-year, 3-year-old children and their young parents who are going to be the future leaders of the country? At the present scenario, I have just formed a very famous slogan, let's change the way India teaches. And I've been very vocal on various educational summits. India does not teach. And this comes from this son whose father was secretary CBSE. India does not teach. Most of the time in schools, the teachers are finishing the curriculum. They are only teaching periodic table in 13 periods, Pythagoras in this period and that in that period. Does India teach? The teacher is giving her best, getting all available resources from e-line, online, internet, Google, NCERT, whatever. Then why does a child, who is a child amongst 50 students in the class, immediately rush to tuitions? Then what do we do in these 8 hours of schooling? 3 days ago, the headlines were 7.5 crore children in India don't go to schools. And we are talking about global education system. एक बहुत प्यारा कोट है फॉर दी एम्प्लॉइज जो आगे जाके कुछ भी बनेंगे, जहानत पे मेहनत करना, जहानत टैलेंट, जहानत पे मेहनत करना असूल ज़िंदगी है मेरा। मानता हूँ इस तदबीर से प्लानिंग, इस तदबीर से तकदीर बनती है। तो आर वी व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट टैलेंट डेवलपमेंट एंड स्ट्रेटजीज एंड कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस एंड इनोवेशन, I ask, how do you identify the talent? पहले टैलेंट को पहचानिए तो सही। हम 17 साल की उम्र में आके या 18 साल की उम्र में आके या 20 साल की उम्र में आके टैलेंट आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं अपना। वी आर ऑलरेडी 15-20 ईयर्स लेट। As a preschool, if we identify the concept of multiple intelligences, कि कौन सा बच्चा कौन से टैलेंट में आगे जा सकता है और हम उसको प्रमोट करें, we hire the best teachers, we say.
So, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt,
Yes.
but if we can just focus on right now the topic.
That was talent, sir. Basically, talent, development, strategies, education. Education is the focus of the crux.
Because then we will get some time for
Sure.
Q&A.
I will just wind up.
Yeah,
Just
please.
wind up. I'm not being critical. I'm just telling what the fact of the matter is when we sit across both sides of the table. Last line है, sir. I don't speak for clappings. I speak what the truth is being an educationist. 90% of the teachers are doing teaching from correspondence.
That's fine. So if you don't.
Where do we get talent? We don't get talent sitting at home. Thank you.
Okay. So we will now listen to, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, that was not my purpose, but hopefully somebody will ask you that question.
Thank you, Vijay. I work in the school education sector, and one of the interesting things that I see, we've all been talking about the fact that you can only make a change in the talent pool in India if you start at the school level. Obviously, I can't disagree with that. That's a truism, but that's going to take some time for that to happen and take effect. However, what can be done today about it is of more interest and more relevance in this room. So we see some sort of wave of change happening, and that is all the debate has been focused around on something we call 21st century skills. Now it's very easy to list out what these 21st century skills are, but it is really difficult to put it into practice inside a classroom. So today we study math, chemistry, physics, social sciences, and so on. But 21st century skills, we are talking about critical thinking, creativity, judgment, design thinking. That's a completely new paradigm shift for a teacher inside a classroom who's been brought up and taught in a very classical way. So how do you disrupt the classroom? Because if you don't disrupt the classroom today, 10 years later, India's dream of being a workforce supplier to the global knowledge economy, I think there are going to be some doubts around how that is practically going to happen. If you look at the scenario today in terms of the availability of talent, we have serious challenges. India might have moved up in the competitiveness index by 32 points or whatever, but if you look at the global talent indicator, India is 89th. It hasn't moved up. We are the last among the BRICS nations. But that is a challenge for people who are in industry to address. As somebody who's spent about 20 years working in and around schools, and I'm associated, I run something like close to 51 high schools ourselves, this is easier said than done. But we've made a beginning. I think there are two aspects of this issue. One aspect is, unless you change the assessment system, the transaction in the classroom is not going to change. So CBSE made some change in the assessment system, and it's a well-known truism in education that instruction follows assessment. So unless we start examining for the application level of learning, the design level of learning, the evaluation level, nothing is fundamentally going to change in the classroom. There's good news, that has started changing. We need to press the accelerator on that, make it much faster. And that is going to come when you change a very basic tool that we've grown up with, and that's called the textbook. Okay, so I think as long as we are chained to the NCERT hegemony of textbooks, I think we have a bleak future. But there's a whole bunch of new age publishers who are coming up with very well-designed curriculum that focus on creativity and all the 21st century skills that we are talking about. So the good news is we're getting there. We need to do it much faster. Do we have a choice? The answer is no. There is, in some sense, there is an educational emergency in India right now in terms of all the different factors that we have. We don't have enough access to education. We don't have quality of education. We don't have teachers. We have stupid regulation around education in India. And hopefully we can have a little more discussion around how we can make a concrete difference instead of simply talking about it. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think that's at a very right note. We all dream of 2030 when India will be the third largest economy and stuff like that, or second largest. Many people believe maybe second largest. One thing which has not struck us, the guys who are going to make that happen, those babies are already born. They're already there. They're waiting to go to a Golden Bells or an Educom school or to an ISB before they can help us do that. So if we are not attending to them in the next 15 years, we better do something. So it's not an issue that we can debate forever and then decide what to do about it. It's something which we need addressing now. Frankly, we are 10 years late. But even right now is a good time. And I think very nice to hear from Shantanu that the assessment system is changing. From the content side, there were many efforts already, but as you rightly said, the constraint was at the end of the day, the assessment, the obsession with marks, right? All those things were contributing. So I think nice to hear about those brave new models. We have full 9 minutes left for us to address your questions. So let's first count how many people want to ask questions. Yeah, we'll get only one time to raise a hand. This is the time. 1, 2. More? No. That's it? Okay. We'll allow a couple more in case you get... so we always start with the lady. No. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Payal Rastogi. I have my own startup, SME, whatever you want to call it. It's the amalgamation of the digital and the old-fashioned. That's what I'm trying to club in my sustainability startup. Obviously, Mr. Tadani, I'm a GNIT in 97. And I was planning to join GE, but I couldn't. And I joined EXL because they paid me better. As you said, at those times. My question is...
I can interrupt.
Yes, yes.
If you had joined GE, then you wouldn't have been saying, I'm trying to start a startup.
No, I'm in the business. I'm in the business, though I have a lot of respect for BPO because it built our careers.
Okay, so the question now.
The question is for Mr. Guru, that why these large, MBA institutes, the students have a lot of attitude and they don't want to work for SMEs. And they come with so much expectation and salary, it's impossible to...
Very good question. Very good question.
Thank you.
How will we attract talent if...
SME.
Yeah, if one of the things which business school teaches, just to be provocative, is attitude.
So let me take the first question straight up. If there is a way that you can help us address this attitude issue, please let us know. I do want us to, I'm not trying to be defensive. Let me just, this thing. Our average age of the students at ISB is 27 years of age.
Right.
I get a person who's 27 years old, who's a dad or a mom in many cases, and has gone through 16 years of formal education, 5 years of work experience. I am not going to get into their attitudinal change. It's very difficult. I don't want to give you a thing saying that this is something that we are working on. We can't, we are not. But the second part of it, why is it that business school students are not joining SMEs or startups? I want to correct the perception there. And it's a perception is also partially maybe because some of it is led by us, some of it is because of the way the media also spins the story. We had a student who got a job in UK in 2007. When converted his UK salary into rupees, it was 1 crore rupees. And Aaj and everybody, I'm talking of 2007 April, made this big thing saying, 1 crore salary, 1 crore salary. It became a big story, and that's what sticks to mind. Every parent says, beta, get 1 crore salary because that's what the other guy gets it, you should also get it. Every employer can't pay that. But the challenge is a lot of employers then say, we won't come to an ISB or schools like that because we can't pay that. The fact is, it's a public forum, I'm stating this, people at ISB go to jobs which pay across the spectrum. It's not that everybody gets only 40, 50 lakh salaries. We have therefore 6-7 years ago stopped declaring the top salaries. We only declare the median. In any case, it's that also we are happy to give more data. We do have a lot of people who do join startups, and you can call it SMEs or startups, because they're more attracted towards the concept of institution building. So I think it's a perception issue, and we are trying to make it more attractive, but they can answer that as well. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, mostly people, yeah.
Let me also add to that. You know, you really have to make your own choice.
Correct.
There are thousands of great students in India.
Right.
Many of them didn't make it to ISP just at the cusp. Doesn't mean they're not smarter. GE in the US had a very clear philosophy under Welch, and certainly I've followed it at Genpact. We don't hire from Ivy Leagues. We just don't. Why? Because we believe in the second tier with enough training. And by the way, the Fortune 50 companies in the US, if they want a CEO, they come first to GE. Because it becomes a training school and the way you train them. So I think, I totally agree with you. You can't help that. But remember, to me, it's not the attitudinal problem, if I may, of the students. It's the attitudinal problem of the employers who are rushing there and offering them all kinds of things which makes them think I'm the cat's whiskers. Right?
Yes. And especially, for startup SMEs, if I present my company profile to other corporates, they will see, oh, your person is from this MBA institute or ISB, so those things also make a difference.
So I have a small suggestion for you. Please stop calling yourself as SME. Yeah, you call yourself a startup. It's sexier, amongst other things. Yeah.
So may I add?
Yeah.
You also did not get into GE because of
I did not
salary issues.
Did not join.
That answers the question. Salary is important, and it's in the mind. So you joined EXL, not GE. The same must be the case with that guy also.
Very good.
Vijay,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's also, I think important is the fact that the cost of MBA education has dramatically increased over the past 5 years. I think an ISB MBA is about 30 lakhs or so, close to that. I'm on the board of another institution called Great Lakes Institute of Management, which are 17 lakhs a year. So most students, we find almost 80% are taking loans.
Yeah.
So I think SMEs have to make themselves attractive to these students as well, isn't it? And it's not true that they're not joining. They join startups. A lot of them are choosing to become entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They are willing to postpone the salary gratification. Salaries, I completely believe, it's not the only thing.
I agree.
Today, if you're going and joining a company, somebody says, oh, you're taken up a job. Yeah. But you say, I've done a startup. So, wow, you've done a startup.
Absolutely.
So there's a different vibe and a different level of energy around what people
Very
are doing.
valid. Very valid.
And I think not enough SMEs, as you would call them, or startups, offer enough equity. My point to you would be, what do you offer in exchange? You are in a competitive environment. Are you offering them enough equity?
Okay, second question.
Yeah. Hi, sir. My name is Bhuvnesh. I run an entertainment company and a consultancy business. So the constant challenge, I believe, what me and most of the employers face is in motivating the employee workforce. Motivating to bring the best out of them, to deliver the best, to reach their maximum potential. So I just came across a statement somewhere which said...
Do you have a question?
Yeah. So great companies don't hire skilled people and motivate them. They hire motivated people and inspire them. So motivation is the first point to reach the edge.
Right.
So what are the best practices that great companies practice to motivate?
Okay. Well, let the great companies speak.
No, what great. I'll tell you what one of the greatest leaders of all time, Jack Welch, used to do, or what we tried to do in our own humble way, in our own smaller way. I'm going to start with some negatives. I think Indian employers typically treat employees really badly, fundamentally, okay? When we skill people around the country, everybody wants a government job, nobody wants a private sector job. fundamentally. They just don't want to come to the private sector. Why? Because you get fired easily. So I place someone in a retailer or a hospitality company. They move them around, they fire them, they sack them, and then they complain about attrition because they've also fired and sacked them, and they have no job security. So you're not offering them any job security, you're not offering them any particular training, etc., and you want them to work very, very hard. So typically, I'm sure you're not doing that, but I'm just talking generically. So I think, one, we must face the fact that the employee environment we create has to be comprised of 4 or 5 vital factors. And they are as follows, in my mind. One is empowerment. They need to feel you trust them. They need to feel you encourage them, that you reward them, not with money. But we would in Genpact have some award or the other being announced every week. And we meant it. It wasn't done ki, kisi ka naam khada kar do, but if we meant it, we empowered them and rewarded them publicly. Nobody loves, every employee loves being publicly rewarded in front of their peers more than that 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 rupees you may give them. 2, I think we have a tendency, because human resources are so easily available in India and so cheaply available, of having too much headcount every time. You look at the hotels, you look at an average hotel in India has 4 times the staff of the same hotel in America. 4 times. If you look at the security staff required at our airports, they are probably 3 times what you would need anywhere else. If you go outside Habitat, you will see the same thing. That slows productivity, because then everybody has to find their space and everybody is jostling for space. So one, keep that efficient, let people have the authority to do what they want. Empower them to do the things that they need to do. 3, encourage them to make mistakes. Encourage them to try. I think a lot of managers get involved very deeply into everything. I have a favorite saying which I use all the time, which is, I have no interest in what you are about to tell me. And I do not wish to be involved in any fashion. And I would like you to take charge of it and run with it. I can't tell you how people love that if you give them that opportunity and they go off and run into it. 4, train them. Invest in their livelihoods, invest in their training, send them to courses. There are online courses available, there are offline courses available, there are training institutes available. There's a 2-week course and a 3-week course and a 1-week course. Leadership development, communications, interviewing skills. Help them be better, because then they feel, okay, you're interested in them. And the last one I would say is promote them. Promote them heavily, reward them when they've done well with kind and cash. But most of all, empower them and give them more responsibilities, because our workforce is very smart. We tend to not make them smart enough, and we tend to be very directive because we run by the rule book. We're very old-fashioned in terms of... So let me tell you, GE, when I came here with GE Capital, our policy handbook was 10 pages. That's it. We have no policy handbook. You created your own policy. You had no long, lengthy, bureaucratic things that you had to do. You did your own thing, and you hired great people, and you let them get on with it. There's a lot more. This is very brief. But by showing people that you trust them, you empower them, you give them responsibility, you are interested in their future, you invest in them, and by being eager with your praise as well as with your criticism, people feel that they trust you, and people love coming to work. They have to love. Last one I'll say. Just make sure, if I may say one thing, make sure your employees are happy. There are easy ways to measure it. You don't need surveys. Walk around, see their faces. I used to take a walk every lunchtime at Genpact from the top floor down to lunch, just to see, are people happy? Are they smiling? Are they joking? Are they talking to each other? Or is everybody walking around with a big grin, glum face on their face? It's that easy. You can pick it up like that. Feel the pulse of your organization. Happy, energized, challenged employees will deliver great service anywhere in the world. If the one thing I can leave you with is, please, make sure your employees are... The one thing I love, I've just come from the SHRM conference. The thing I loved was 20 ex-Genpact people came up to me and shook my hand and said, Pramod, love it, glad you're here. They have no need to say anything nice to me. They're ex-employees, right? They don't have no need. And then one father came up and said, Genpact, she is very happy. That's all we need to hear. You know that the company will do well. Sorry, long answer.
No, I think very, very appropriate answer to you. Any one of you want to add in?
One in English and one in Hindi. Hire the talent, train the attitude. Hire the talent and train the attitude. Second, as a owner, entrepreneur, हुनर को परखने का तजुर्बा गर होगा, मंजिलें नूर होंगी और सफ़र हंसी होगा. Identify the talent. Put the right person in the right place.
You want to add in?
I'll add my 2 bits to it. And my experience is slightly different. It's about energy. Okay, and if you put people where their talent is, then all the extrinsic motivation and rewards and recognition, all that is important. Okay, but you have to find out what the talent is. And look at sales, for example. If you choose people who have a talent for sales, at the end of a day when they have done 5 sales calls in the hot weather of Delhi, they still have energy because they love doing that. And if you put people where that is not their natural talent, they're going to ask for more compensation, more reward, because they have to spend energy to do that particular job. So if you can manage the energy in the organization, you will probably hit the right basis there.
Just one quick thing. One of the things that really worked for us at ISB is because we don't have people to pick up from comparable institutions. Most of our employees have come from other non-education institution background, is that we tell the story where they can be part of building a world-class institution in India. So sort of help create an aspiration, but of course it can, sort of quickly bounce back if you are not making, that happen. But it's this art of storytelling that has worked for us, which we have actually told them that 100 years later, you don't have this opportunity of building a world-class institution called ISB because it's already 100 years old. So we said that's what we want to do, and that's what has really worked for us.
Can I add one thing very quickly? Informality matters. These are small things. Informality. In my office, nobody calls. I have told them, you call me sir, and I will never respond to you. You call me boss, I will never. Informality matters. They call me Pramod, I call them that. Why? Because then they start talking to me. Meet them all the time. Meet them in a hallway. I'm designing a new office. My entire design is going to be open plan. I'm getting rid of all the offices for all these people who used to come. We all say, we'll all sit out in the middle. We'll all chat with each other. I'll chat with the coffee boy. I'll chat with the courier boy. I'll chat with the clerk. I'll chat with the head of consumer business. All together, informality matters. Last one I would say is, communicate often. Communicate. Every week, every month, every quarter, get all of them together. It seems like a waste. Get them all together for a Monday morning meeting. Get them all together for a monthly meeting. Get them all physically together every quarter. Makes a huge difference. So what we did at Genpact was we would take spouses and leaders away every quarter. So one guy, I have to tell you this little story, very funny story. They became a family. They're a bond. They go on holidays together. One guy wanted to leave. His wife calls me up and says, he's trying to leave, the idiot, please stop him. So I called him into my office. I said, I believe you're leaving. And he was shell-shocked. He's my senior most leader. Looked at me and said, how do you know? I said, I know. You'll find out how I know. Well, you go home first. And you build a culture and a bond which is so strong. Yeah?
So I'll add one bit to it, right? Your organization has a vision, correct? You enrolled him in that vision. But give everybody an opportunity to build a personal aspiration within that. Personal aspiration. Saying your vision is to become a world-class institution. What am I going to be? In that picture, what is my space? If he works towards that, then he is committed to that aspiration. And if everybody meets their aspirations, you met your vision, right? So it's as simple as that. All right. So I wish we could go on. We were just beginning to warm up, but as I had promised that there is time. Sorry. I've been asked to ask if we want more questions because we are up with time. So I'll explain you a very interesting way by which we'll do that. I'll give you a very interesting way. So let me first complete. So I had promised you that we will land at 14:45. We are 9 minutes late. Air traffic control, how bad it is. So because of that, we are a few minutes late, but I did want to bring the session back on track. These 5 minutes extra, the 9 minutes extra, you will take out of your tea break, right? And now comes the best news. you can actually talk to everyone during the tea break. We are a small group. We're a small group. You can tell your stories. You can listen to stories. Pramod he is just warmed up. So by the way, if you can get the 21 minutes more out of him, you will benefit a lot. Thank you so much. So we'll continue with the next session. She believed that that's what we should do. Is that right? But then wouldn't we be ahead of time? No, so then can we handle some more questions? We were just beginning to warm up. So the lady can, for example, talk. Are you okay to stay 4 or 5 minutes? And you are willing to hold on. Always the lady first.
Yeah.
Just, this is round two.
I just wanted to share my experience.
No, but please add one question. Otherwise we don't have a reason for you to speak.
Since all of them are from the education industry, as far as the MBA graduates are concerned, I'm an HR person. So I have in my team a lot of MBA fresh graduates. So premier schools, yes. As you said, the talent, they are very intelligent, they are very smart, they are very confident. But in terms of their education, what they are trained for and how much they contribute to the organizations when they come and join, I have my doubt. So as Mr. Vasin said, they get trained again. And whatever they learn in that organizations, they start contributing maybe over a period of 1 year of rigorous training or so. So I think that's the situation in India now. So maybe the premier schools, they have their own module, they have their own curriculum, they have their own standard. So of course they are very good. But generally when you see many other MBA institutions, the focus of the students and the institutes only are with the placements. So when I entered the education institutions, I had been visiting faculties, so they talk only on placements. But what kind of value they're adding in terms of their knowledge, their skill, I have my own doubt as far as the MBA colleges are concerned now. So that's my experience. Just
But now you have to ask a question.
So the question is to ISB, how they are different, how they're adding value, how they are collaborating with industries, and what do they understand, what are the requirements of the industry, and how they're adding value.
I don't know. It's probably going to be a lengthy answer, but I do want to just state one thing. I don't think since you started with a position of doubt, and I saw Mr. Basin and Tadani sort of having probably different views, if I can sort of second guess this thing.
Absolutely.
Very different.
I don't think that's a fact. And if I state this, it would be a defensive response, but I don't think that's a fact. And I think I don't speak just for an ISB. I speak for my alma mater, which is not ISB, but I also speak for all the business schools who have the right intent. Nobody is trying to follow, especially in the business schools, a curriculum which is outdated. If there is one sector of the higher education which is closely linked to their consumers or clients or the sort of end product, it is the business schools, because there's a close connect. Does that mean that we are really out there up to the mark? Of course not. It's not that there's a perfect state that we are in. We are always, the goalposts are moving. We are doing our best to make sure that the game is realigned, the players are reassigned to their different spots to make sure that they sort of score goals. So that's the only way. It's not. I'm not going to get into actual answers of how the mechanics of how we do it, but safe to say that not just ISB but all business schools in this country and elsewhere, try to make sure that their graduates are reasonably well equipped to face the challenges of the job market out there. It varies from program to program.
Itself.
Of the industry itself. Yeah.
If I may, I honestly believe we thwart their potential. Most companies strangle them at birth. We don't give them freedom, we don't empower them, we don't let them go, we don't let them experiment, we don't throw them in the deep end and say, swim for it. It's a lengthy debate, we can have it any time. I find them fantastic. I think they're wonderful. I think it's their superiors who tend to say, no, let me tell you what to do and that's all you'll do. And I don't want to hear your ideas yet. Tujhe kya aata hai? All our HR, every HR job description says 15 years experience. You've got startups, average age 28 years, and we're looking for 15 years experience. In Genpact, we started with no experience in anything, anywhere. But yet today, similar HR teams will say, if I want somebody in banking operations, get me someone with 12 years experience. What's going on? So I think we do ourselves our disservices. These people are smart as hell. I think we should just give them room. And I think HR should create room for them to innovate, to express their ideas, to be heard, to take responsibility and to run with it. They'll make a few mistakes. It's okay.
Sir, may I?
Since we are speaking in sequence now,
Okay.
now it's tea time. Yeah. So let me add my bit to it. You decided to make an investment in a human resource, correct? You are equally responsible for getting a return. Now don't blame the investment, correct? So I think what you need to look at the mirror, couldn't agree more with Pramod. Look at the mirror and ask yourself, if the number of people who succeed with you versus the number of people who fail with you, if that ratio is very, very in favor of those who fail with you, then I think there is a need to look at your own management styles. So there is a general tendency to bash the educational system, bash the society, bash the industry, if nobody else, CII, right? Yeah, saying your industry is not doing anything about it. So I think what we need to ask ourselves, making a success of an investment is our responsibility as well. We are, all of us by the way, as luck would have it, all of us are coming from industries and institutions which did not have a precedence. Yes. When NIIT was formed 35 years ago, absolutely, there was no concept of a private individual as a trainer. Yes. And why would a person give up his job in a college and a school and come and work with this small startup somewhere? Correct? So we produced trainers, we created trainers, we created the whole need for doing that. We hired MBAs. We hired an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in the very, very first year when we were not even a day 10 company. We walked into the cafeteria in the night and spoke to people and said, this is what we have in mind. Surprisingly, even though we were not day 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever there was, we got 4 people that year. The very first year we got 4 people from IIM Ahmedabad. And those 4 people created and contributed to this company. But like Pramod just said, what do you need to, once you get a very big fish, you have to give them a big pond to swim in. If they don't have a pond to swim in, what are they going to do? Then you will say this fish was stale, this fish was bad, or whatever that is. Correct? So remember that. This is my bit. Add to this.
What I gather is you are talking about moral values.
The attitude.
That's the main thing. Yeah. Again, I will stress, who teaches moral values? The teacher? He could be anyone, the school, the parents, the management, the society. If we have good teachers, I'm saying good teachers, not a teacher, who has done regular training, not sitting at home, she cannot give moral values. So I request to the educationist, we should have more and more of regular coachings for teachers, not sitting doing teaching job from correspondence. If that teacher is the teacher of your child for 16 years, then only that child goes to ISB. But that 16 years are formed in the school. So that attitude has to be developed during the schooling stage, and that has to be brought from the teachers. So I stress again, the education system has to be very, very on the job. Experiential learning is the need of the hour. And that is why Swadhyan, I've started a NGO Swadhyan, self-learning. Everyone needs to learn. The child, the teacher, the school, the management, the society. Unless we do our Swadhyan, how can we teach the child? We have to teach the child in the way the child wants to be taught, not in the way we are teaching the child. So morality mixed with marks is the need of the hour.
Wonderful. And
yeah.
Shantanu decided to give it a pass, so we
Yeah.
get one more question.
Sir, I have a question regarding fresh engineers. Actually, fresh engineers of electrical or mechanical background is hired for the software services in some IT companies. And after 3-4 years on the review, he is getting out of that because of some reasons. So now they are not getting any job, he is on the road. So is there any mechanism to get into the jobs, or is any portal or any company who is looking after those cases?
I'm sorry, what is the
Sir,
question?
mechanical guys or electrical guys is being hired for software services. They're totally different. The HR is going to the campus, hiring, actually, and the school is forcing them, who is coming first, you have to go there, okay? So they are starting for the software services, working on some particular tools and anything. And now after 2, 3, 4 years, generally in the review, actually, the company is actually kicking out, okay? Now those guys are on the road. So is there any mechanism in the HR or any service, any practices who can take care of all those guys? Actually, they are on the road.
Okay.
They are jobless.
So there are multiple reasons for it. There are
Yes.
multiple reasons for it, but maybe Pramod, as NASSCOM, you can comment on this. So the people who are, I will give you one reason as well, but maybe.
No, I may have misunderstood the question. You're really saying for all these people who have joined, who now may not have a position.
So I'm talking about the bad practices of the HR who is hiring the wrong people. Bad practices of the HR who is
Yes.
hiring the wrong people.
You know, to be honest,
mismatching
I think there is a very vibrant market out there for people who are well educated, who have a graduate degree, etc. Frankly, when we do skilling, we see more jobs available than there are actually people available. So in those cases, I think there are many companies, but the online debate is much more powerful. You know, with LinkedIn and everything else going the digital way, there are many, many, many ways for these people to reach out to new jobs all the time. From a NASSCOM perspective, all I would say is we see this industry growing faster and faster. So I'm not sure that the proportion of people who have gone into the wrong jobs is very high. I don't think it's a very large number. I think it'll be a pretty small number.
So let me add my bit to it. First of all, they were not in wrong jobs.
Right.
Let me state that very upfront.
I should have said that.
Right? They have been hired, and by the way, nobody forced them to come and join that organization.
the school forcing them to join the.
No. I think even there you are wrong. You ask them what is their first choice. What is their first choice? They didn't want to join in quotes BHEL. BHEL is the placeholder right now. Sorry? Who was, by the way, the only employer going at that time. Right? So they wanted to join an Infosys, they wanted to join a Genpact, they wanted to join an NIT, and they joined NIT. And why did we take them? Let's be clear about them. We didn't take them for their mechanical engineering skills. We took them for their problem-solving skills. What does engineering teach you? It does not teach you mechanical engineering. In fact, it's a misnomer. This morning, I was telling Mr. Amitabh Kant, the single largest favor we will do to society in coming times is to take away this nomenclature called BTech, computer science, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. The problems and opportunities of tomorrow do not come with a label on their head saying, I'm a mechanical engineering problem, please solve me. I am a mechanical engineering industry, please, that was the industrial age solution. In the knowledge age, and right now we are in the innovation age. In the innovation age, multidisciplinarity is the order of the day. You need a big width of knowledge and a narrower width of skills, or narrower depth of skills, but deep depth of skills. Those are the things which are required. Now, why some of these people are out and many of them are still in? 3 million people are getting employed today by the IT industry, correct? And of 3 million, I can thump on the table and say not more than 300,000 are computer science background, not more than 300,000. In fact, NIT would have contributed a third of it, who were all raw graduates, BAs, BComs, BScs, right? So now, that leaves you still with a very large number of engineers who are non-computer science. And why are some who still have a job and the others who don't? The reason some who have a job is they change themselves with time. They upgraded themselves. There is a huge, huge on-thrust of a digital economy, and digital transformation skills are required. Those who got those skills, whichever way they got them, employer gave them, they got it, whichever way they got it, they have their jobs and are getting double the salary. Those who did not will go obsolete. So that's my answer to this. All right, all good things must end. So thank you very much. We did have a very engaging debate. Now you have a 5-minute, not even a 5-minute. Sorry, Pikinder says if the door opens, then, on return, there may not be anything back. So now the doors are closed on you. We will get into the next session right away. Thank you very much. A very engaging discussion.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Vijay. Vijay, you're wonderful. Good to see you. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Great session. Thank you, sir. Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you after 6 years. Yes. Okay. Sure. Bye.